Exercise number 1, yes and. Yes and is an exercise I often do with partners when I teach live programs. And the idea of yes and is that it's a format to always create value offering content. Okay, so it has two parts. It has yes and and. Whenever you're saying yes, what you're basically saying is I agree with the world as it is. Whenever you say and, you're saying here's a little bit of extra value from me. See, most guys when they go talk to girls or go talk to someone in a nervous situation or a situation where they want something, what they do is they ask question after question after question, which is value taking. Yes and is value offering. Almost anything you say, if it starts with yes and, it's going to be offering value. Okay? So the key of this exercise is you're going to say yes and you're going to not think ahead. It's very important. If you're thinking ahead, you're ruining the exercise. Basically, the way your brain works, a lot of times when you're trying to come up with something to say, your brain is trying to save you from embarrassment. It's trying to save you from emotional or social pain. And so when you're being quiet, your brain is thinking, how can I avoid embarrassment? I can avoid embarrassment by shutting up. I can avoid embarrassment by staying quiet. However, once you've said yes and everybody's looking at you, well, now the easiest way for your brain to avoid embarrassment is to finish the sentence, right? So just trust yourself, say yes and without a plan. And then once you've said yes and without a plan, finish the sentence. Trust your brain. Trust that you have decades of social experience behind you that's going to help you out with this. And trust, especially if you've practiced this exercise a lot, if you have to use it in the field, yes and, that something is going to come out. Trust your brain. Your brain will take care of you if you put it in the right situation. Okay? So if you're doing this with a partner, what I suggest is partner 1 just says 1 or 2 sentences. Partner 2 says yes and then the first thing that comes out of their mouth for 1 or 2 sentences. Then partner 1, we're back on him. He goes yes and, right back, next thing that comes out of his mouth. Okay, so that's the way to work on it with partners. If you have 3 or 4 people, you could even go around in a circle, whatever. The idea is you're saying yes and then you're just spitting it out. If you are by yourself, all you really need to do this drill is sentences to work off of. So there's lots of ways to do it. Pick up a book, pick a line of dialogue, and then say yes and to that line of dialogue. Or turn on the TV, like hear a line of dialogue, hit pause, yes and, first thing comes to your mind. Unpause, next line of dialogue, pause, yes and, first thing comes to your mind. You can do this on YouTube, you can do this on radio, any kind of medium that will just give you verbal catalysts, something to use to yes and off of. If you really wanted to, you can yes and yourself. You can yes and monologue, right? So walk up to, the wall, pretend the wall is a girl, which game the wall is a different exercise, which we'll talk about later. But you say, blah, 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 yes and, a couple sentences. And then yes and off of whatever you just said, yes and a couple sentences. And this is great for being able to plow, being able to, when a girl's giving you nothing, generate things to say that are truly value offering, that are truly non-reactive. And actually plowing and dealing with hot girl blasé is a great use for yes and as an exercise. Another great use in actual game for yes and is in passing shit tests. Because as soon as you say yes and to anything, you are clearly not emotionally reactive, you're clearly offering value. You might not pass every shit test perfectly with it, but you pretty much will never fail a shit test by doing a yes and type of format. All right, so practice this. It's a very useful format. It will help you out. One caution that a lot of people run into with doing this is yes and literally is the word yes and the word and. It's not yes but. As soon as you say yes but, you're actually saying no. All right, you want to truly say yes, truly accept the world as it is, truly say and. Final little takeaway. Yes and is a technique that literally you can say yes and that's how I want you to practice it at first, and that's how you'll probably implement it first in the interaction. Over time, what yes and is, though, is an attitude, which is the attitude of the world's great, I'm offering something. And so over time, as you implement this in-game in the real world, you'll find that you take the attitude of yes and, the attitude of like, I'm just going with the flow and offering value without literally saying the words yes and that's when you know that you've mastered this particular exercise.